What's going on YouTube? It's your boy CamATL. Shout out to the DFS squad. Shout out to everybody watching this video right now. Drop a like down below because I already know you're gonna love it. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Let's get 500 likes on this video down below. Thank you very much, guys, for all the support and love. 500 likes down below. All you gotta do, I am going to be giving away $50 to one of my NFL viewers. I appreciate you guys so much. I will be giving one of you $50. All you have to do to put your name into the drawing for it is like the video, subscribe to the channel down below, and comment anything down in the comment section other than "fuck you, Cam," and you're good to go. All right. In this podcast, me and Craig will be covering all of our favorite plays for NFL Week 4. We'll touch on some value guys and all that, and then later on in the week, me solo, I will do another video where I give an updated look on the slate for NFL Week 4. All right, so let's go ahead and get straight into this. Who are you liking at quarterback?
There's a couple guys at the top that I like, but I don't think I'm going to get to any of these top prices. I'm going to start with Drew Brees. All right, Drew Brees has just been fired. He's not at home in his dome. That's the only part that is giving me a little bit of pause.
Because you love him at home in his dome. I get it.
Yes, and apparently if he's in other people's domes, he's just fine too. So, but he's still got a respectable total. He's still probably one of the best quarterbacks to attack on the slate just because their defense is just giving it up. And if Eli can keep this game moving and scoring, it's going to force Drew Brees to go ahead and do his thing. The fact that they don't have much of a run game and most of their running yards does come from Drew Brees' arm, he gets credit for that. Drew Brees is always going to be a nice cash game play with a solid floor.
Oh yeah, with all of those weapons he has, yeah, he's always good. Great selection. He is definitely in play for Week 4. I'm gonna go with Matt Ryan, man. We talked about him in last week's, and he went absolutely nuts. This week, he didn't have too much of a price increase. He's only 6'1". He's probably the best value on the slate. I mean, he might end up being chalky even. But Matt Ryan, he's just been slinging the rock a lot lately because Atlanta's defense is banged up and they're giving up a lot of points, which in turn forces Matt Ryan to throw the ball a ton. And in this matchup against Cincinnati, it's a great matchup. I'm expecting Cincinnati to be able to score back at him, forcing Matt Ryan to keep airing the ball out. So yeah, I love Matt Ryan at 6'1". He will be in a lot of my lineups this week. Who else you got, Craig?
All right, next on my list is Phillip Rivers. I really think he's got some great potential against the San Francisco team, who's one of the worst in the league right now, that you can attack through the air. Phillip is at home, okay, but the one thing that gives me a little bit of pause is that San Francisco just lost Jimmy Garoppolo. If for some reason they're not able to score and keep the pace of this game up, it could seriously limit Phillip Rivers' floor. But on the bright side, San Francisco looks like they may have just lost Richard Sherman. He was injured this week. So if for some reason that San Francisco can keep this game going, I do like the upside for Phillip Rivers to attack San Francisco through the air.
Yeah, I agree, for sure. My next guy that I'm going to talk about is actually in that same game with Matt Ryan. I might as well have just touched on it while I was there. But Andy Dalton's price seems very good at 5'4". Going against an Atlanta team that's been giving it up to quarterbacks. Quarterbacks are being able to do whatever they want to them. It's in a dome, so you don't got to worry about weather issues. And you also know on the other side of the ball, Matt Ryan's going to put the ball in the end zone. Okay, so Andy Dalton's going to have to throw the ball. AJ Green's a bit banged up with a groin issue. Keep an eye out on that. But our boy over there, our receiver over there, Tyler Boyd, has been making up for it, and he has been a beast. So I think Andy Dalton's going to be just fine in this matchup. So I definitely love Andy Dalton. I'm going to touch on the last quarterback I like, and then you go ahead and touch on your last guys you like, Greg. The last guy I like is Eli Manning in this matchup against New Orleans, facing Drew Brees. Manning showed some life in this last game finally. They finally showed some life against Houston. The offensive line did a bit better. He threw for 297 yards and 2 touchdowns. Okay, he almost hit that 300 mark. I love Eli Manning here in this matchup against New Orleans. Like Craig talked about earlier with Drew Brees, we always love Drew Brees. He's always a cash game play, especially with all those weapons he has. So with that said, Eli Manning is a great play on the other side, and I love some of Eli Manning's weapons in for Week 4, and we will get into those soon. But Craig, who are your last guys that you're liking?
The last guys, and I'm going to touch on them both right now because they're both in the same game playing against each other, and that's Deshaun Watson and Andrew Luck. All right, they got a respectable point total this week. Vegas has opened them up at about a 47.5. It's also projected to be a very close spread. So I see this working out that way. I see these two teams battling back and forth. They got a great environment to play in. I like Deshaun Watson with his upside, with the floor that he can provide while running. But I'm not going to sleep on Andrew Luck at 5.5. That's a nice savings to have a potential shootout type of game against two defenses that haven't really shown me much so far in the season.
I'm totally with you on that. I like both sides of that ball, yeah. And I think Deshaun Watson's going to get it going and start killing it here again soon. All right, so now I'm going to go ahead and scroll through some guys that we didn't touch on. These are guys that we don't love as much, but are definitely guys that you could still get involved, whether in GPP or maybe like a cheaper cash game type guy. First guy I want to talk about, Mitch Trubisky at 5.2 versus Tampa Bay. He is in play. We know Fitzpatrick is going to get some pressure from Mac, but he should be able to handle that secondary not too bad. So Trubisky is going to be forced to throw the ball. I think Trubisky is a good little safe option at 5.2, but with Andy Dalton 200 more, it's all good. Carson Wentz, this is a good matchup for Carson Wentz against Tennessee. I like that. I'm not too interested in Russell Wilson here, even though he started to show a little bit of life. It's against Arizona, whose offense just hasn't been able to get it going. And if they can't get it going, Russell's not going to have to do a crazy amount. And I think it could be a Chris Carson game. But I'll go get into talking about him in a minute. CJ Beathard, I know I'm bouncing around here, but I'm just going to talk about these guys real quick. CJ Beathard, or however you say his name, the Chargers are a toughish defense for him to go ahead and come in and make up for Garoppolo. It's not a great spot for him. I'm not interested in playing him in anything. If you want a crazy GPP flyer, a lot of people will be off of him, so take the shot on him. And I will say that I do expect San Francisco to have to throw a lot. Tom Brady versus Miami, you know the deal with Tom. He's a cash game guy like Drew Brees. You can pretty much use him whenever. Derek Carr versus Cleveland. I definitely like this situation here for sure because we got our boy on the other side of the ball, Baker Mayfield, making his start for Cleveland. And I am a Baker Mayfield believer. He can run. He's a good, accurate passer. He moves the ball. He's safe with the ball. I think that he's going to make a big impact for Cleveland. And in turn, it's going to have the teams that they're facing have to do more. So Derek Carr is a great option. Jordy Nelson blew up and looked great with Derek Carr, so pair them together for sure. All right, now I'm going to skim through. Aaron Rodgers against Buffalo, I'm not liking it. All right, to be real, that situation with Buffalo beating Minnesota was the biggest upset in 23 years with how big of favorites Minnesota was. And I literally read that. That's facts.
Yeah, so I'm tilted about it still.
That is crazy. Absolutely crazy. That does not happen most of the time. That was one of those, once-in-a-lifetime events. I think Buffalo's going to go back to being pretty garbage. And I think Aaron Rodgers is going to have his way for as long as
one of our
needed.
Followers tweeted Buster Douglas, Mike Tyson all over again.
Exactly. That's exactly it. All right, Joshua Rosen. Keep an eye on this young kid. I think he's got some talent, but against Seattle, I know Seattle's been sorry, but they look pretty solid against Prescott. I'm not trying to get heavily involved in Rosen. Like I said, he's another guy. You can take a GPP flyer on him if you want, just to hope he has a good start to his career. But against Seattle, they look like they're stepping it up a bit, and Arizona's offense has been struggling. I'm not interested. Matthew Stafford against Dallas is fine. I do like Prescott a little bit to get it going here against Detroit, so that's fine. Blake Bortles against the Jets is a good one as well. Who else do I want to just make sure you guys are aware of? And then Josh Allen against Green Bay. I do expect this to go the way it's supposed to go. I expect Green Bay to get up on Buffalo, forcing Allen to throw the ball up. So at 5-1, I love that. All right, let's touch on running backs. All right, Craig, who is your top running back of the week for you?
Well, the permanent captain of my Hall Pass list, Alvin Kamara, and he's going to stay there until Mark Ingram comes back. All right, the guy is just the best, okay? He doesn't get it completely on the ground. He's only going to get 10 to 15 carries on the ground, but it's what he does through the air and what Drew Brees, like I mentioned, Drew Brees is my QB this week. Their running yards come through the air and little dumps to Alvin Kamara. All right, his floor is just so high. He's going to get us 20 points, and we can almost feel safe with it, okay, with 40-point upside. Alvin Kamara is my favorite running back of the week.
I like that. I'm going to throw out a Saquon Barkley going against New Orleans. I think this Giants offense in general gets it going this week. Saquon Barkley is a monster, okay? I watched him in college. Everybody knows about how much of a beast he was in college. And so far, in his first season, he is looking great. 23, 24, and 22 in his first 3 games in Draftkings points. I absolutely love Saquon Barkley here. He's been getting it done in the passing game and rushing. Absolutely love him here against New Orleans. He is one of my favorite plays. And honestly, for 1,500 less than Alvin Kamara, that's tough for me to pull the trigger on Kamara. I feel you, Craig. I'm with you on that, and you can't go wrong with Kamara. But like Saquon that much cheaper in what should be a game where Saquon's going to be heavily involved, I think Saquon's above him in my eyes, personally.
Oh, I totally like the call. And if you can't get up to Kamara, I totally get going with Saquon Barkley. But I have the same situation with my next guy, Melvin Gordon. Okay, if you don't have the money for Kamara, which it's hard to do at 9,600, and I understand. Melvin Gordon, especially with the way that I predict that this game script will work for him, I think the Chargers are going to beat San Francisco pretty bad now that Garoppolo's out. Okay,
Agreed.
They're at home. This game script and game flow just reads perfectly for Melvin Gordon, whereas the Kamara game script might not be as good. So I kind of understand taking the savings and going to a Melvin Gordon or a Saquon Barkley over Kamara, even though I think Kamara has the higher floor than both of these guys and definitely the higher ceiling. The probability that these guys hit their ceilings and he hits his floor this week are too close. So I definitely get taking that savings.
Yeah, I'm fully on board with Melvin Gordon as well. He is going to be a very nice play this week with, like you said, Chargers should stomp San Francisco. So I'm with you on that. I'm going to go with Ezekiel Elliott at 7-7, definitely in play for me against this Detroit defense. I mean, Zeke is fairly consistent, 17, 19, 18 so far. He got 127 rushing yards against the Seahawks in 16 attempts, okay? We know what Zeke is capable of, all right? We know what Zeke is capable of, and I would expect him to start getting these big over 100 yards, few touchdown games going once they get their offense clicking. Right now, the issue is Dak is struggling a bit. And with Dak struggling the way he is, defenses are zoning in on Zeke and forcing Dak to throw, and that's limiting Zeke a little bit. But Ezekiel Elliott in this game against Detroit, they're going to have to utilize him any way they can. That Detroit offense looked great against New England. By the way, I'm so glad Patriots lost. Anytime they lose makes my night. But Detroit's offense looked legit, and I think they're going to put it to Dallas. I think they're going to be just fine offensively. Zeke is going to be included in the pass game and all of that. I love Ezekiel Elliott at 7-7. Who else you got, Craig?
All right, I'm going to go down and grab some value with my next guy, and that's Carlos Hyde. I'm just really impressed with the way that they're using him. I mean, he's just a bell cow right now. You know, week 1, 22 carries, then 16, then 23 last week.
Here's the thing. Honestly, I want to mention this real quick. I'm sorry, but
yeah,
I want to mention this real quick. With our boy Baker Mayfield coming in for Cleveland, that is a bump up to Hyde.
I agree. That's what I was just about to go.
Yeah, okay, go ahead.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, and that's what I'm feeling. Like, the upgrade in quarterback makes it play more honest. First of all, I'm not impressed with Oakland and their defense, and I just think that this should be a good recipe for Carlos Hyde to get his 20 touches, get his 3 or 4 catches, and get in the end zone. And at 5,500, man, sign me up for some Carlos Hyde. I like this new Cleveland Baker Mayfield led team.
Yeah, that's a great choice, man. Yeah, I'm excited to see that. I love Baker Mayfield, so I think he's going to be able to add that passing element that teams didn't really have to fear as much with Tyrod.
Real quick before we move on, I just because he's on the screen right below him, I also have some interest in James White. We'll have to see how serious the injury to Rex Burkhead was last night. It's still early in the week, so I don't know what that injury, but if Rex Burkhead is out, it gives me a little bit more interest in James White at 5,400. I just wanted to throw that out there as a PPR play for DraftKings.
Yeah, James White is definitely good, and also with Sonny Michel. Sonny Michel's going to get a bump as well there if Burkhead is out. So I like Sonny Michel. The last two guys I really want to touch on that I like for week 4. First one being Lamar Miller. Going against the Colts. This is an amazing matchup for him against the Colts. The Colts have been a bad defense for like 20 years straight. And Lamar Miller should be able to grind it on the ground here in this matchup against the Colts. I absolutely love it. He hasn't been amazing. He hasn't wowed us with 11, 9, and 15 so far the last 3 weeks. And the 10 attempts last week doesn't make me ecstatic. But going against the Colts, man, it is an amazing matchup. And I think sooner than later they're going to get him more involved in this offense. And if they can get him 20 touches a game, which they need to be doing, if they can get him to 20 rushes a game, he's going to be able to hit those good. Lamar Miller is a good running back. He just doesn't have the opportunity in an offense that they seem to throw a ton. So Lamar Miller is a good play. And the main reason I like him is because he's 5,000.
Yeah.
And he's on a
Great
good
price.
offense. So I like Lamar Miller. And last but not least, we're sticking with our man we talked about last week, Giovanni Bernard at 6'3", going against Atlanta. Yes.
Gio.
Sign me up with this. He gets involved in the pass game. He looks solid with his first start in without Joe Mixon. I love him here against Atlanta, man. Any pass-catching running back against Atlanta, I'm all in on. And at 6'3", I absolutely love Giovanni Bernard. Anybody else you want to touch on, Craig?
I just want to make sure we double touch on Giovanni Bernard. Yeah. I love this man, and for the exact same reasons that you said. And I just was feeling a little bit of shame for switching up to Latavius Murray. In your stead, Gio.
Hey guys,
sorry, Gio.
Look, and a lot of people played Latavius Murray, and it makes complete sense. Look, don't beat yourself up over it. It's DFS. Okay, crazy things are going to happen through this season, but the way you got to look at it, you got to keep that mindset. Okay. Minnesota was so obviously supposed to smash Buffalo. And
I haven't been so tilted in about a year. It's been about a year since I've been that
was
tilted.
Tough to deal with.
Yeah.
Watching that, literally the day started, and then soon after the day starts, I see 17-0 Buffalo. I'm like, what the hell is this? You know what I'm saying? Did I die at some point and I'm not alive anymore or something? What is going on here? But that was crazy. Yeah, like I said, facts that it was beating Minnesota. Buffalo beating Minnesota was the biggest upset that's happened in the NFL in 23 years with how much Minnesota was favored. All of those survivor picks are dead. All the survivor brackets they're dead. Everybody should be. If you picked Buffalo to win that, you're amazing. And I know I'm going to get some commenters in the comment section. Oh yeah, dude, I knew Buffalo was going to win. Well, congrats to you. Good job, but I didn't see that. Okay, so I'm going to go through these guys. I do want to mention Jordan Howard against Tampa Bay. Good matchup for Howard. He's been getting heavily involved in the Chicago offense. I like Jordan Howard here in the pass game and all that. I'm not too interested in David Johnson against Seattle. Leonard Fournette against the Jets. I'm not on board. There's other guys I like cheaper and above. I'm not on board with Leonard Fournette this week. Marshawn Lynch at 4.8. I'm going a little bit bounced around. This is the way I wrote these guys down. Marshawn Lynch against Cleveland is a solid matchup for sure. But Lynch just never really does it for me. He's been consistent though. 12, 14, 17. He's been consistent. He's been getting about 18 touches, 19, 20 touches. And if he gets that here against Cleveland, he could be good. And at 4.8, he's solid. He's decent value. LaShawn McCoy, I'm not interested in, honestly. We got to see how that shakes out. Okay, we're going to have to see how LaShawn McCoy's injury is and see if he comes back. If he does come back and he plays his regular workload, at 5'6", he could be decent because he's going to – but the question is, are they going to get him involved in the pass game finally? That's what I'm waiting to see, and that's a big question mark. I'm going to zoom through here. Kerryon Johnson looked great. He looked great against New England, so keep him in mind at 4.4, great value. Tevin Coleman, keep an eye on Devontae Freeman. Make sure he's still out, but Coleman will be fine versus Cincinnati. The main guy I wanted to touch on here is Chris Carson at 4.6. Chris Carson looks great, and against Arizona, this game script should be a lot of low scoring and a lot of running. Okay, Chris Carson got 32 attempts against Dallas. 32. Okay? He still only got 102 yards, which you would expect more with 32 attempts. That's an average of 3.2 yards. This is a guy that with that workload, with that amount of touches, okay, going against an Arizona defense that really doesn't scare me. And a game script that Carson should get involved in this, just like he did against Dallas. This is that type of game script. Chris Carson could be very good at 4-6. I'm just gonna touch on a few more guys. Sonny Michel, I mentioned a little bit ago. He could be good if Burkhead is out. Um, that's about it. That's really all I really want to touch on here. All right, wide receiver, top wide receiver on the board for you, Craig. Who do you like?
All right, thanks, bud. My favorite wide receiver this week is Michael Thomas. I'm going to pair him with my boy Drew Brees. All right, it's not just that he's getting such a nice target share, it's his catch efficiency. He had 17, 13, 10 targets, and he's had 16, 12, and 10 receptions. He's only missed 2 receptions this entire season so far.
Crazy.
With that kind of chemistry with Drew Brees, his floor is just so high. I love Michael Thomas. His price is a little high for this potential game script. That's the only thing that gives me a little bit pause, but Michael Thomas is my favorite wide receiver on the slate.
I'm with you on that. Totally agree. He's getting peppered with targets and he's catching all of them. His hands need to be checked for glue. I'm going to go with Odell Beckham Jr. with Eli
Nice.
Manning. I absolutely love them running back with against New Orleans, who we know is going to put up points. So I love the New York Giants guys like Saquon Barkley, as I mentioned before, and Odell Beckham Jr. I also love Sterling Shepard as a cheap option as well in this New York offense, who obviously they're going to be throwing a lot. I know the Giants offense hasn't been amazing this year, but in this type of game script against a team like New Orleans, there's going to be a lot of throwing, and Sterling Shepard and Odell Beckham are both in play, but obviously I like Odell Beckham as my favorite receiver on this slate due to matchup as well. Craig, who you got?
Yeah. Yeah, they have a 50-point total and a pretty nice spread, so I totally love that call. But I'm going to take a dynamic duo from another game. I'm going to jump in to this Houston at Indy game, and I love DeAndre Hopkins this week, but I love his playing mate, Will Fuller. Man, he has just been lighting it up since coming back. Week 2, his first game of the season, he had 9 targets, caught 8, okay? Week 3, he had 11 targets. That's very encouraging to see this kind of usage from Will Fuller. Okay, I know his price has been rising, but it should be. And even at 68, I think he's still a great value for this slate in a game that I think is going to be very competitive and in a nice environment. I really like Will Fuller and DeAndre Hopkins.
I'm totally with you on those two as well. I love that Houston offense. Once they get clicking, there's tons of points. They put up tons of points. My next receiver that I'm loving is, speaking of value, Tyler Boyd at 4.6. I talked about
Yeah.
him in the recap video last week. I love him, man. I mean, AJ Green's got a groin issue he's dealing with. If he ends up missing, Tyler Boyd's going to be a must lock. But either way,
Locked.
he's damn near locked either way at 4.6, even if AJ was in, especially against an Atlanta team whose defense is banged up. They're missing some of their real young linebackers that are good in coverage as well, and period, their secondary just hasn't been good for a while outside of Trufant and all that. So, yeah, Tyler Boyd should have a great game here at 4.6. I absolutely love the savings we get with Tyler Boyd. And another guy I love is Jarvis Landry, with Baker Mayfield taking over that job for Cleveland. We have already mentioned him already. We mentioned Carlos Hyde, but Jarvis Landry is going to get a bump up too. Baker Mayfield's the more accurate quarterback between him and Tyrod Taylor. He's the guy who can get the ball to these receivers. And Jarvis Landry is going to be his guy that he leans on. And at 7,400, that price is fairly high. But I love Jarvis Landry here against Oakland. I have faith that Derek Carr and Jordy Nelson could get clicking here eventually. I mean, as we know, Jordy Nelson had his breakout game this last week. I'm hoping their chemistry can get going and Oakland's offense can get rolling. But Jarvis Landry he's been a guy, he's been peppered with targets since Miami. So we all know what he's about. He's going to get tons of targets. And at 7.4, I love Jarvis Landry. Who else you got, Craig?
Yeah, totally agree with that call. Right there below Landry on the list, man. $400 savings. T.Y. Hilton hasn't been targeted less than 10 times in the first 3 games of the season, and I just love this game script. They're playing at home in his dome. Okay, Andrew Luck hasn't been lining it up yet, but I think this is a get-right game for all involved in this entire dome, okay? I love this Houston-Indy game script. I love T.Y. Hilton running it back. I love stacking either quarterback with both receivers and two receivers from the other game. I just love game stacking this one for GPPs. So T.Y. Hilton, I love, and just because we're on the screen right now, I'm going to go ahead and give an honorable mention to Golden Tate and Kenny Galladay. They just have such great chemistry right now with Matt Stafford. I think their prices are very reasonable, and this whole price range from Landry down to Galladay, I just love all five of these guys.
Yeah, speaking of Michael Thomas possibly having glue on his hands, Galladay has been making some serious catches. The
Yeah.
dude's got amazing hands. So yeah, I'm totally with you on that. I'm gonna finish mine off with my love for Matt Ryan. You already know of. Calvin Ridley with his huge coming out party, week 3. Man, he just looks great. I was watching that game, obviously, seeing I'm a Falcons fan, and Calvin really just looked amazing, man. Matt Ryan loves him. He's starting to have more chemistry with him, and we all know in this pass first offense with Atlanta, in this high powered offense that they have, and with Julio Jones taking some of that attention off of Calvin, Calvin's going
Yep.
to be leaned on heavily. And in a game like this against Cincinnati, I absolutely love Calvin Ridley here. And of course, I love Julio as well. But because of the price savings that you get
Right.
with Calvin Ridley, I'm more into pairing Matt Ryan with Ridley. That way, I'm able to get a piece of that game, yet still be able to have plenty of money to get some balance elsewhere. So, yeah, Calvin Ridley,
Completely agree.
absolutely love him. Yeah.
Love it. Love that
Um,
call, brother.
all right, guys. So, real quick, I'm just going to go through the rest of these wide receivers. The guys that we mentioned are our main guys that we're really looking at, but obviously there's other receivers on the board that need some loving too. I'm just going to touch on some guys that have good potential.
I really need to bring up one guy before I sign off on wide receiver, and that's
Hmm.
Keenan Allen.
Yep.
Uh, Once again, I want to pair him with my guy Philip Rivers, but Keenan Allen has a great opportunity this week against San Francisco minus Richard Sherman.
Right.
The only downside with Keenan Allen and this $8,300 price tag is how we see this game going. If the Chargers get up on San Francisco and San Francisco's not able to score, Keenan Allen's upside is limited, but he still has a nice floor with this PPR format, and he is Philip Rivers' go-to guy.
Yeah, exactly. Keenan always gets the targets. He's always there. He's always trustworthy for Phillip. All right, Nelson Aguilar. Keep an eye out on Alshon Jeffrey's situation, but Jeffrey remains out. Aguilar's still the main man for Philly. Aguilar kind of came down to earth and had a mediocre game. But here against Tennessee, it's a great matchup. So Aguilar could get slept on. A nice little GPP play there. Deshaun Jackson, we know what he's about. Long ball opportunity at all times with Fitzpatrick. We got Keelan Cole. Keep an eye out on Fournette. If Fournette is out, I always love Keelan Cole. He's going to get an uptick in targets no matter what. Some other guys that I want to talk about. Tyler Lockett. He's been interesting for the Seattle offense, man. He's been getting a ton of targets. He's been getting a lot of looks out of Russell Wilson. You can tell Russell loves him. Against Arizona, I don't know exactly if this game script is going to work out for Lockett, seeing that Arizona's offense has just been dreadful. But maybe Rosen can bring a spark to that offense, so keep an eye on him. I talked about Sterling Shepard and Calvin Ridley. Absolutely love them both. Jordy Nelson had his coming out party in
Yep.
his last game. Had a great game. Him and right under him, Geronimo Allison are both in play for me this week. Cleveland is going to score with Baker Mayfield at quarterback. I have high hopes for Baker. I think Cleveland's going to be able to score. I think Oakland's going to have to throw, and I like Jordy Nelson. Geronimo Allison against Buffalo. Allison's just been very solid for Rodgers, so I like him too at 4-7. And Tyler Boyd, I talked about him. Amazing play. Let's see if there's any other real cheap guys that I want to give you guys.
I have one real quick that I'd like to add. Last week I made my sleeper pick of the week in the early look video with my boy Kamar Aiken. Well, that was before they signed their boy Jordan Matthews. Jordan
Yeah.
Matthews back in the fold, got in. I know he didn't do much this week. He only had 2 targets, but give him a week of practice and give Carson Wentz another week to get in shape and football ready. And I think Jordan Matthews at 3,600 could be a nice sneaky little GPP sleeper.
Yeah, once he gets back integrated well into that offense. Um, uh, Craig mentioned Keenan Allen that he likes. I think a cheap option of that Charger offense is Mike Williams at
Yeah,
4,500. Man, he's
he's
gotten
balling.
13, 10, and 24 the last 3 games. He is definitely balling. Just got 2 touch. He's gotten 3 touchdowns in the last 2 games. Mike Williams is definitely being looked at in the red zone. And at 4,500, I love Mike Williams as a cheap flyer as well. Anybody else? Kelvin Benjamin. Okay, I do expect Buffalo to get beat by Green Bay. I do expect them to fall behind, exactly what we expected with Minnesota. I don't think Buffalo has just out of nowhere just reemerged as being amazing. Okay, it's just not. I'm not expecting it. So, Kelvin Benjamin should be a guy that Josh Allen will be depending on and relying on. This is his big receiver. You could throw it up as like a safety type of thing. Just throw it up, he'll go get it. Kelvin Benjamin at 3-6 is a good option to me in a game where Buffalo's going to have to be throwing to keep up with Green Bay. Mohamed Sanu, another Atlanta Falcon. He got another touchdown in week 3. At 3-6, he is a great option as well. Anybody else? That's about it, guys. That's about all I have for wide receiver. Let's go ahead and get right over to tight end. I'm going to start it off by saying Rob Gronkowski, if you have the money and you absolutely don't need to upgrade anywhere, then Rob Gronkowski is fine against Miami. My only issue with this is he's 7,000. That's just a really, really high price. Obviously, Rob Gronkowski is going to be a great play here against Miami. It's a great matchup. But at the end of the day, is it worth the 7,000? I do know one thing. With New England losing to Detroit, Tom Brady will be pissed off. Okay, so I do not expect them to pump the brakes, even if they get up big here. So I wouldn't worry about New England in this. I don't think there is any. I'm not worried about any type of game script issues because I think New England gets up 30-0. They'll still be gunning for touchdowns. So Gronk is a fine play if you have the money. Who do you like, Craig?
Okay, I like a pair of tight ends from the same team. Okay, another dynamic duo, if you will, and that's Zach Ertz. Okay, Zach Ertz, $800 savings off of Gronk. Okay, I really love him. He still got 10 targets last week. He didn't do much with those targets. I mean, he did catch half of them for 73 yards. He didn't get in the end zone, but man, they are using their boy Dallas Goedert or Goedert
or whatever.
Whatever, however you say his name, he is money. That's what his new name.
This dude, hey, and this dude coming out of college was known to be an amazing receiving tight end. Like he was known for that, so he's got it in him.
Speaking of glue in his hands, I mean, 7 targets, 7 receptions, 73 yards.
Great
but
receiver.
he found pay dirt. Yeah, so if they're going to be using him, it does limit a little bit of the Ertz upside. I still like Ertz. I could see a nice little GPP contrarian play 2 double tight end, Ertz and Goddard on the same line. That would be interesting.
That would be crazy.
I love those 2 guys, but my favorite. And he busted on us last week, but I don't care. I'm going back to the well, especially if Jack Doyle is still out. And that's Eric Ebron. Okay, Eric Ebron got 11 targets. I was watching that game. He got targeted in the end zone and just could not bring it down.
And not just once, a few times.
Right,
like he was relied on in that red zone.
And honestly, I think if Jack Doyle's out, Ebron at 3,600 is going to be super chalk again. And I understand why, and I'm just going to bite that chalk again because he is just in a great position with a quarterback that loves to target tight ends in a game that I like, in a good environment. Sign me up for Eric Ebron.
I like that. I like that call, man. A guy I like is David Njoku. I've been talking up this Cleveland offense with our boy at quarterback now, Mayfield, and I think Njoku is another guy who benefits, and at 3,200, I think he's a great play. Oakland for years has been struggling to cover tight ends, and this year is no different. Okay, so Njoku could have a big game here. He showed last year that he could have those big games. He is a freak athlete. Watching Hard Knocks, the dude is a monster. He's a huge dude. He's a super athlete. So I do expect him to really put on a show here with Mayfield if those two get a connection going. So don't sleep on David Njoku. And Austin Hooper's in play as well of Atlanta. I mean, it's a broken record at this point. Anybody on Atlanta's offense, play him. Okay, I'm not even gonna repeat this anymore. Okay, Austin Hooper at 2.9, giving you exposure to one of the top offenses of Week 4, is a solid play at 2.9 for sure. Anybody else we want to touch on, Craig?
I like O.J. Howard. He's been balling too. We're recording this before the Monday night game, so as long as he's healthy and didn't get injured or something like that, definitely think he has some upside. Anybody else you're liking?
I definitely agree with that. If Buffalo happens to somehow keep that game close, Jimmy Graham. I like Jimmy Graham with Aaron Rodgers. Anybody with Aaron Rodgers, anybody, they can all show out. Um, Ben Watson is sneaky. I mean, he's getting to that back end of his career. He's not a guy that's going to wow you, but the Giants are another team just like Oakland, have struggled for years against tight ends. So Ben Watson is a solid option as well. And that's about it.
Are you off of Kittle with the Garoppolo injury?
Yeah, I'm off of Kittle. It's a question mark right now. Let's see how that chemistry is with the new guy. I mean, you would expect Brothard, however you say his name, to rely on a guy like a tight end, with him making his start here against the Chargers. And that is where he'll want to target because the Chargers secondary is solid. So that's where he's going to want to stick to, but we'll still have to see. It's not worth paying 42 just as a question mark like that. GPP, hey, anything's possible. All right, so let's go ahead and talk defense. What is your ultimate favorite defense for week 4?
My favorite defense for week 4 is going to be the Los Angeles Chargers, taking advantage of San Francisco without their QB Garoppolo. It's just a recipe for success for them at home. I expect them to score against San Francisco and get up. I mean, it's a similar situation to what we thought last week with the Minnesota and Buffalo, and we saw how that turned out. But I don't think that we're going to see a repeat of that kind of shocker this season. So sign me up for the Chargers.
I agree. Like I said earlier, I mean it was the biggest upset in 23 years with how big of favorites Minnesota was. So that's just crazy. Anyways, a defense that I love is 400 cheaper in Green Bay. I'm still look. This is DFS. Okay, I understand that Buffalo just smashed Minnesota, the best defense in the league, and Minnesota's a better defense than Green Bay. I don't care. Buffalo's offense is still atrocious. They are garbage, and they're going to have to show me one more week at least that they're coming back to really put on a show, and I don't believe it's going to happen. So Green Bay's defense at 3-5, a little savings off the Chargers. That's another team taking advantage of a bad offense. Obviously, we have a few other solid options. Seattle's defense versus Arizona. Arizona's offense has just been sputtering this year, not doing very well. David Johnson's not looking great between the tackles. Hopefully, they can get him more involved in the pass game, seeing I have him in my fantasy league, and he's really screwing everything up. But, yeah, anybody
and a
else?
New quarterback coming in for them, too.
Exactly, so that could be good.
My favorite value defense, honestly, if I'm needing to save some cash, is the Browns. Okay, I'm not a believer in Oakland right now, and I am a believer in the Cleveland Browns defense being legit. So until Oakland actually starts showing me something, I have no problem targeting against them, especially with a team that I think is a quality defense like Cleveland Browns.
Yeah, I am also I'm fairly into the Cleveland defense, and at 2.9, I mean, that price is pretty low. I don't know if I'm going to be going there, to be real with you. I mean, that is a bit of a stretch. In GPP, I'd feel more comfortable with it. I'd rather Green Bay. Honestly, I'm sitting at Green Bay or the Chargers. That's pretty much where I'm sitting at this week. If you need the money, then go Green Bay. If you don't need the money, go ahead and go get the Chargers. So that's what I'm thinking, guys. Thank you guys for joining us. As always, before we leave, I'm going to give you that final look lineup that you guys have all been waiting for. And this week's first look lineup is looking sexy. Obviously, things will change. All of that, go to greenlightdfs.com to join the squad to get the fine-tuned version that's going to go off week 4. We are locked in and hype to take over for week 4, but here it is. We got Matt Ryan going against Cincinnati. I don't need to explain much. You guys know how much I love this Atlanta offense in DFS. I mean, Matt Ryan's been slinging that ball, and against Cincinnati, I believe this can stay fairly close. I think Andy Dalton's going to be connecting a lot with Tyler Boyd, which will be great as well because you guys will have Boyd because you're watching this right now. Gio Bernard, another guy that you definitely need to have that Cincinnati offense, going against an Atlanta team that's always struggled versus pass-catching backs. Giovanni Bernard is definitely in play this week. Carlos Hyde. We talked about how with our boy Mayfield coming in and being the quarterback for Cleveland, that it gives Hyde an uptick because Tyrod Taylor's not known much for his throwing accuracy. Defenses can kind of, it's not much of it's not much help for Hyde having Tyrod. But with Mayfield, that's definitely some help. It's more of a legitimate offense with a regular type of quarterback, not a scrambling out quarterback. Tyrod just loves to leave the pocket. Mayfield's the more of he's going to sit in the pocket, see what's going on. So the defense is going to have to, stay ready. And Carlos Hyde is going to get some open lanes here in this offense. So I'm excited for Carlos Hyde. Calvin Ridley for Atlanta, paired up with Matt Ryan. Like I told you guys, if you have the money, you can add Julio if you want to. But I'm taking that value with Ridley and matching him up with Matt Ryan. Tyler Boyd on the other side. He's probably my value player of the week, especially if A.J. Green misses with the groin injury. Will Fuller for Houston. He's just big play Will. He's always making big plays. He's been very solid this year. He's definitely one of Watson's favorite targets. We know that. Will Fuller
represent for the hall pass.
Yeah, present for the hall pass, Fuller. Let's go. Eric Ebron, if Doyle is still out, Eric Ebron needs to be locked in. Like we said, he didn't put on a huge clinic, but he had a few red zone targets he didn't pull down, or it would have been a very good day. Melvin Gordon. Okay, we're expecting the Chargers to beat up on San Francisco with their new quarterback. And what does that mean for the game script? That means there's going to be a lot of running with the Chargers up and a lot of Melvin Gordon love. I can see Melvin Gordon getting 3 touchdowns in this game. So I love Melvin Gordon here at home. And then last but not least, a lot of times I love pairing my defense up with a running back, and that's the Chargers defense pairing with Melvin Gordon. Because if that Chargers defense is doing good, what, Craig? You want to finish that?
That game flow is great from Mr. Melvin Gordon.
That's it.
He's gonna
Sir.
He's going to be killing that clock.
Yes, sir. And that's it, guys. Matt Ryan, Gio Bernard, Carlos Hyde, Calvin Ridley, Tyler Boyd, Will Fuller, Eric Ebron, Melvin Gordon, and Chargers defense. As always, thank you guys for joining us. Go to greenlightdfs.com to join the squad to get that heat this week. And we're out.
Peace.